Here, the most clear image of apartheid. There is Israeli illegal outposts, even illegal for the Israeli national law, as they are according to them. They are built in the firing zone, but they keep landing on our land.
The Electronic Intifada.
The Electronic Intifada.
The Electronic Intifada.
This is the Electronic Intifada podcast. I'm Nora Barrows Friedman.
And I'm Asa Winstanley.
Welcome back to the Electronic Intifada podcast. I'm Nora Barrows Friedman. We turn to the situation in Masafer Yatta, an area in the South Hebron hills in the occupied West Bank, where the Israeli military is attempting to turn the region of Palestinian villages into a firing zone. In May, the Israeli High Court rubber-stamped the forced expulsion of more than 1,000 Palestinians from 8 villages in the area. If Israel carries through with the forcible transfer, which is a war crime, it will be one of the single largest expulsions of Palestinians since 1967. The exercises that the Israeli military is undertaking in Masafer Yatta will be the first in the area involving live fire in more than 2 decades, according to Haaretz. During those 20 years, Palestinian residents of the area petitioned Israeli courts against approving the military's claims to their land as it would effectively allow for their forced transfer. Last year, Israel conducted a military drill lasting 2 or 3 days in Masafer Yatta, driving tanks next to a village's school, clinic, and mosque, and damaging agricultural land and residential structures. David Mintz, one of the 3 justices who issued the Masafer Yatta verdict in May, was born in England, and lives in Dolev, a settlement in the West Bank built in violation of international law. And in mid-June, Israeli tanks rolled into the Masafer Yatta area and placed shooting targets on private Palestinian property. Joining us to talk about the situation in Masafer Yatta is Basel Adra. Basel is a journalist based in Masafer Yatta and has been covering the news inside the area. Basel, thank you so much for being with us today on the Electronic Intifada podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and where you live there in Masafer Yatta.
So I live in a village called the Tuwani in Masafer Yatta. I am an activist and journalist. I've been raised as for activist parents. My parents are activists since long time, confronting the occupation and try to resist the condition and try to create more better condition and getting our life requirements. So they've been succeeding in some of their resistance, and the other side. Also, they paid the price, mostly my father, who's been arrested over than 10 times and being brutally and attacked in the field. Succeeding in getting some of our life requirements should be normal and simply, and we should have this life requirement. But because we are under occupation, under a military control, our life has been going on very hard, and soldiers and settlers on the ground putting us in very harsh conditions. So they became activists, and me as well, to resist this situation.
Basil, let's talk about what's happening right now outside your window. You posted a video on Twitter on June 28th of the Israeli military placing targets on one of the main roads and opening fire. Just a week before that, you posted to Twitter that, quote, tons of Israeli soldiers just started training in Masafer Yatta. They're driving war tanks near the school as children watch, terrified. They're placing targets on cars and windows. They're doing this to evict us in the most brutal way possible. Tell us about that and what keeps happening. I mean, this Israeli court order happened in May. Tanks are already starting to act like this is, a done deal.
So after the court decision in the 4th of May, the Israeli occupation army on the ground announced that they're going to start the military exercises in the area and between the communities and nearby houses and the structure of the communities. They even in the beginning of it asked specifically to evacuate the people in Khalid out of their homes for the military exercises, and then they withdraw that request. But even they keep doing this military exercises. According to them, it will keep for 1 month for now. Started last week, this week as well, and there's another 2 weeks that they gonna bring in tanks and like doing live fire shoots and the drones, all like around their military exercise, which is a fake tool and a fake brutal tool that they're using as our area as a firing zone, just to evacuate us as Palestinians from the area of Masafer Yatta toward Area A, where it's Yatta and the big Palestinian cities, and to evacuate us from Area C, where our homes is, to make more rooms for the Israeli settlers. Here, the most clear image of apartheid. There is Israeli illegal outposts, even illegal for the Israeli national law, as they are according to them. They are built in the firing zone, but they keep expanding on our land every day, getting farms, getting infrastructure to steal more of our land. They are backed by the state, getting all the support, while the same state come to demolish our homes and to do this military exercise for very clear goal, which is like to evacuate us as Palestinians from this land and to make it for the Jews.
Give us a sense of how the community is fighting back. What has been happening in terms of any resistance to the encroachment of the Israeli military and the plans to confiscate your land and villages? What's been happening to activists and just regular community members who are trying to resist this?
Regular community members are tired and exhausted from this life. I mean, the first step and the main step they are doing is to keep staying in their homes and facing these harsh conditions. This is going on for decades. It's not just from the 4th of May. We've been reporting about this uh, since long time, and this happening before I got born here in Masafer Yatta, because uh, the designation of our land is a firing zone area come out in the early of the 80s. So since then, people has faced like hundreds or thousands of demolitions of the structure, started from caves, tents, homes, bulldozering roads, cutting water supply, and no electricity. So living and facing this harsh condition is the main resistance that the people is doing here in the Masafer Yatta. The other the other resistance that we are doing is, since this like decision has come out, we mainly protesting on Friday on the highway, on the entrances of the villages. Peacefully, we're carrying signs and flags and chanting and carrying signs also, but always the occupation army, police, and settlers terrorizing our protest. Uh, in one of the protests that happened in Masafer Yatta, where settlers involved in the oppression of the protest with the Israeli occupation soldiers, and standing next to the soldiers throwing stones. Uh, there was a video that published when Israeli settler from the outpost Mitzpe throw a stone at two Israeli left-wing activists and solidarity activists who come to the area and injured two girls. And we see in the video the soldier stand nearby and let the settler to run back to his outpost without arresting him. In another protest, also the same settlers from the same outpost were throwing stones at journalist cars and breaking their glasses, as well injured two Palestinian activists, and one of them were injured brutally in his nose and got his nose broken by settler violence. Today, we just had a protest. They detained also the Israeli occupation soldiers. They detained at this kill Palestinian guy and arrest another for solidarity activists. And this has been going on since the decision that come out. As well, there is the military exercise that come and limit the movement of people. Uh, and within that, the activation army set up tents in the area in between the communities and the main road, confiscating Palestinian cars under the pretext that they're moving in the firing zone area. For 3 days almost, they detain two activists and confiscate their cars, and this has been going on since the designation.
Basel, you're a young journalist, and I mean, what is it like being a journalist, trying to cover what's happening in, your neighborhood, for the outside world, for local media inside Palestine, especially in the wake of the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh. What is it like working as a journalist right now?
Killing Shireen Abu Akleh is really a crime that it's really terrible and heartbreaking after getting that news. Uh, Me and other activists and journalists on the ground here were really putting ourselves in risk to document what's going on, to show the truth and what's really happening on the ground, while the Israeli media or Israeli occupation forces try always to lie and to upside down the truth. My home, for example, were raided in December 2021, and the occupation forces raided my home, confiscated 5 cameras and laptop and the car that I used alongside with other activists to document their crimes in the area. I've been also in May brutally attacked personally and like physically beaten up by the occupation soldiers in the nearby my home here while I was documenting them come to take down a sheep shelter for no reason except I am there to document them, and they just let me go until they was sure that I got brutally like beaten and injured, and all I needed is ambulance to take me to the hospital. As well, for example, in the beginning of the pandemic of Corona 2020, I was also beaten up by force soldiers, and my camera was taken away, and they took off the SD card that I filmed them chasing a shepherd within the settlers from the outpost nearby. Uh, always facing this kind of stuff on the ground. Also, my home were raided like at night from February till today, at least 7 times. Not just my home, but other homes in the community as well. Take arrest. My father was detained twice. I was beaten. They tried hardly to take my phone while they were like beating up a solidarity activist, and as well took his camera. Uh, the same thing we faced from the settlers, also on the ground. Attacks by dogs, by stones, live fire, shoot that they do next by to the soldiers, breaking our cameras. So this is how it is to be a journalist on the ground.
I'm really glad you're okay. Let's talk a little bit more about the court ruling. As I mentioned in the introduction, one of the Israeli High Court judges who issued the ethnic cleansing verdict for Masafer Yatta is a settler living in an illegal settlement colony in the West Bank who represents settlers and the army that protects them, who obviously has a stake in the expulsion of your community. As our editor Maureen Murphy put it, settler colonialism is the single organizing principle of the state of Israel. Can you talk about this and the significance of the ongoing ethnic cleansing that's happening in Masafer Yatta and what that says about what Palestinians are facing right now?
In the big, like the designation where in the beginning of the 80s to be inside our land, the firing zone, it come out from an Israeli Ariel Sharon, who were at that time the Minister of Agricultural ministry. So he said he wants to do this firing zone area in the West Bank, which is 18% of the West Bank firing zone area. And he said actually in the document that this is going to be for the settlers in the future for the settlers and the settlement. For example, in our area, 32,000 dunums, 12 community were declared a firing zone, which means they're gonna remove them and to build uh, settlements and outposts for the Israeli settlers to come and live here. Uh, and this is what's going on the ground. Actually, they're always squeezing and demolishing our home. On the other hand, there is the outpost and settlements expanding and getting all the infrastructure that they want. In 1999 happened the first brutal evacuating of the people of Masafer Yatta when I was 3 years old. 700 people were brought in trucks with their stuff, with their sheep. All their homes were wiped out and were uh, like taken away by the Israeli occupation military trucks without any alternative solution. They just throw them in the landscape and to other communities which is not in the firing zone. 6 months the people were trying to go back and live in their land or at least work their land and to harvest the weed and cultivate the land. A lot of them were arrested and detained when they were trying. A lot of their sheep were confiscated by the military. After 6 months, they got a temporary court decision that they can go and live in their land until the final court decision will come out. So all these 22 years, they were fighting in a legal battle uh, to save their land and to keep living in their homes. The people brought every and each single evidence that they could to prove for this court uh, for the court to prove that there were communities existing here decades before. One of the evidence is aerial photos that before the 1948 and to show that there were structures and communities in the area. And the answer of this judge were in the occupation court saying, yes, there is a structures, but how we can show that there was a life in these structures. Uh, and the other excuse, they said, the people of Masafer Yatta like us, we brought the evidence late, like after 20 years. And it took them 22 years. That means like for them late because we do, like the people here did the appeal in 1999, and which means the area was declared a firing zone in 1981. And only people did the appeal only when they were evacuated. And before, a lot of people didn't know that their land is a firing zone or were declared like this, even though there was no human rights organization working in the area, no lawyers, simply people who really doesn't understand the law of the occupation, which is opposed on us, and we don't choose it, and we don't vote for it. It's just opposing on us by gun. So since 2000, they start to bring in evidence, and from 2000 till 2022, like the 4th of May 2022, took the court to check this whole evidence and to come out with decision that the people were very late in bringing in this evidence. And this shows that this is just a political decision and not a judgment. The settler, as you mentioned, take this decision according to his ideological, which is to he's living in a settlement, so he wants more settlers to come live in all over West Bank and to keep colonizing the area and ethnic cleansing the Palestinians. It's very clear, it's on the table that the apartheid is very clear in front of the international community, and those governments who keep supporting Israel with their dollars, with their money, and keep funding this occupation, soldiers who use the money to demolish our homes, our sheep shelters, expanding settlements, chasing us in our land, and it's all hypocrisy. You know, no one wants to big fight, no one wants to really protect the human rights, no one wants to fight for the Palestinian rights. It's all condemning and sending statements, but without any serious steps.
Basel, how are people in Masafer Yatta able to fight back after this court ruling? What are their legal options at this point?
No legal option after this, like for the Israeli occupation court, because this is the highest uh, court decision. The lawyers try to do something in this month, in July, but no expectation that this will change the de facto or the decision that were taken. Uh, I believe that there is our work on the ground, our steadfastness on the ground, and to create a movement through the media and the international community to put pressure through the international authorities on the Israeli authorities to stop what they are doing.
And what can people outside of Palestine do right now to support the people of Masafer Yatta and enact that kind of pressure?
I mean, sharing our stories, keep writing and talking about Masafer Yatta. Also, if they can come on the ground to be on solidarity, being in our protest, being protective presence with the shepherd, with the school students in the community during the training, as well protesting and sending letters to their representatives in the government to take serious steps against this and to stop this.
That's the voice of Basel Adra. He is a young journalist working and living in Masafer Yatta, an area in the South Hebron Hills. Basel, if people want to follow you on Twitter, what is your Twitter handle?
Uh, uh, you want to put link? My name is Basel Adra. I don't know if you want to put the link there.
Sure. Yeah, we can just, let's see, I have it up here.
Also, I write for 972 magazine. There's articles you can find out to read more in detail about the story of Masafer.
Great. So 972 magazine, and also your Twitter handle is at Basel underscore Adra. That's BASEL underscore ADRA. Basel, thank you so much. Please be safe, and we'll have you back on very soon.
Thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, hit like, leave a comment. These engagements help us with the YouTube algorithm, and it helps us to get around Silicon Valley censorship as much as possible. It does make a difference. You can also support our journalism by going to electronicintifada.net and clicking on donate now. Thank you.